Just think of it as going into space. But it's at the bottom of the ocean. Last Breath was written and directed by Alex Parkinson, who did the 2019 documentary of the same name that tells the true story of divers Chris Lemons, Dave Uasa, and Duncan Allock. I kept wanting to call him Alcock because of course I did. But since this is based on real life events, you're obviously going to get a Hollywood spin, unlike the documentary that tells the true story and does a deep dive, ironically, into what everybody went through to bring diver Chris Lemons back to the surface after, well, some routine maintenance is interrupted by Mother Nature saying, "No, you will not do this without my say-so." So yeah, essentially, after routine maintenance is anything but routine, we then notice that, well, Chris Lemons doesn't have a whole lot of oxygen left, and now it is a race against time and health, and, well, Chris Lemonson's life slowly drifting away. The ship's crew and, of course, Duncan and Dave being right there. Duncan, of course, barely breathing, and Dave is here, man. They are ready to do anything they can to save one of their own. So, this was the Regal Mystery movie. That's why I was able to see it a few days before it actually comes out, and I have only seen a little bit of the documentary. I haven't seen the whole thing. I probably should actually check that out and review it. Yes, naturally, you're going to get some dramatizations, dramatic reenactments. You're going to get some different spins. And Alex wasn't the only one that did the writing here. You did have Mitchell LaFortune, who did Kandahar. Oh boy, Kandahar. That one wasn't all that good. That one was kind of goddamn shitty. That being said, it was also written by David Brooks, who produced Pray for the Devil and edited ATM. So, yeah, I think we were relying on Alex, basically, to just recreate the magic from just telling the story in the documentary and cobbling the footage and the interviews and stuff like that. You know what? It's mostly effective. I'm not going to say it's perfect. It follows some of the same beats. There's cliches, but it's nice and tight and does, cause you to dive in, ironically, to, the depths of what people will go through to, essentially survive. And there's no explanation really for how particular things turned out. But I will say, as far as production, I thought it was pretty well done. I thought Woody Harrelson did a good job as Duncan, not Sheik Alcock, Allock. I'm sorry, can't help it. He is a seasoned veteran, a grizzled hung veteran, soon to be rectimized. I'm making jokes here because only deep cut people will actually get what the hell I'm talking about. And he is going to be on his last mission. And also you have Simu Liu, who is really, really good, by the way, as Dave, kind of hardened and everything, very straightforward. Finn Cole, baby, plays Chris Lemons. He just wants to get home to his wife. He just wants to do a really good job. You also have Cliff Curtis, who is in this. Cliff Curtis is a really good character actor that doesn't seem to get enough roles to just, for his skill set. And Mark Bonner is also in this. And I promise you, I did not put the A and, replace it with an E. Why would you think that? Why would you ever think I would do that? So, yes, it's expedient. It is literally 93 minutes bell to bell. And actually builds the story well. You get invested in these characters. You get invested in the fact, like, holy shit, this could actually work. And, oh, no, it's something bad's going to happen. And, man, this is really dramatic. And also the undersea photography was done by a man named Ian Seabrook. You can't make this shit up, folks. You can't make this shit up. A lot of the same people that were involved in producing a documentary did end up being involved in this, which makes sense as to why quite a bit of this actually ends up at least trying to be as true to the story as possible and effective enough. Perfect? No, but definitely something worth your time. Now, is it going to be a splash in theaters? Again, ironically, since it's in the ocean, maybe not. It might do decently. This will probably definitely find a life on streaming. I'm actually a bit surprised that this wasn't released on Netflix or Max or Peacock or something like that. They didn't gobble it up for a number of millions. So maybe it'll be a surprising hit. It's, again, effective, good for what it is, and wraps up the story nicely without extending itself too far. Again, cliches. You just got to deal with them like that, but I will say Finn Cole does a really good job as Chris, and there's a lot of really good acting in this. Effective enough. Perfect, no, but good enough. Good enough for what it is. Anyway, getting into spoilers, there you go. So, for those that have seen the documentary, you know. For those that have not seen the documentary, Chris survives. Somehow, miraculously, he survives. And we see how basically they're tethered with like these umbilical, they're called umbilical cords. They're like these wrapped, stretchy cords that they lower down, and then they lower down and they try to fix this pipeline, like do maintenance on this pipeline. There are these power stations that they basically, find. Somehow these things are running. That's actually miraculous how these things run. Here's the thing. What if you forget, like, your wallet? How are you going to get back down there and do that? Oh, shit, I forgot my favorite wrench. Well, sorry. Just hope the fish don't goddamn carry it away or whatever, or the octopi or whatever the hell, giant squid happen to be there. But nevertheless, Woody Harrelson has some pretty funny lines here. Chris obviously wants to get back home to his wife. Seeing the actress playing his wife, I'd want to get back home to her, too. And, yeah, it's good enough. The ship computers do end up going offline, so they have to do manual stuff, and one guy ends up having to reboot and re-rack the whole thing and wire it and put it back in, and it's a silly dramatization moment, but it's effective. This movie earns, earns the right to have some cliches and some silliness and stuff like that, and again, the acting's pretty good. Duncan and Chris do have a relationship that goes back, not like that, but nothing wrong with that. That goes back a number of years. But, Duncan obviously wants this last mission for him to go smoothly before he rides off into the sunset. And, yeah, there's good stuff by Chris. He's, like, panicked. He's got flares and everything. It's like the whole Sonic thing where he's not sure how much longer he has left. He only has 10 minutes of oxygen, by the way, because his umbilical cord gets wrapped around when they're trying to get up. Because the storm's hit, the ship's fucked. They're trying to get to this basket thing and get back up into this pod. And just, get back safely. Well, Dave does, and he says, I'll come back to you, but you have to get to the top of this structure, otherwise I won't be able to save you. And now 10 minutes left, because basically he has 10 minutes of oxygen left because he's on reserves. Naturally, they end up having to do the computer reboot, that kind of stuff. They take the manual, in the meantime, and are trying to steer the ship around. But this thing's being carried out to sea, rough seas and all that. Really good underwater cinematography, again, by a man named Seabrook. I just find that so funny. And Chris ends up basically at the top of the structure and finally is fading out. And, so after 10 minutes, he manages to get up there, or just in enough time. But then, boom, he's laying down, not doing all that well. Obviously, you kind of need oxygen to live. I don't know if you know that. And there are, people on the crew that are really, tech crew, they're really trying to get Chris. The problem is, it looks like they might be able to with this like little deep sea camera apparatus deal, and they try to pick him up, and they do, but he's coupled. It's a clip-on deal. A harbinger. It's a harbinger of doom. No, it's a carabiner. I know what it is. I just am having a little bit of fun here, but he's hooked there, so his body didn't float away. And then we get a little bit of backstory with Duncan telling about how they had their first mission. It was a lobster boat off of like the coast of some part of Scotland or whatever it was. And he was telling this to Dave. They could find all but one body, and they gave like some heirlooms to this one lady in a shoebox, but not any ashes or stuff like that. And he's like, I'm not going to give his wife a shoebox. We won't. We're going to go get him. And they do. Now, They manage to get the ship around. They manage to just Dave manages to get down there, get him, hook up to him. And the thing is, though, is then things start getting violent because the weather started getting rough. The little bird cage thing, as I'm calling it, not the Nathan Lane Robin Williams bird cage, as hilarious as that would have been, that ends up almost hitting them. And then they're struggling up the umbilical cord. Well, Dave is, because Chris is kind of not able to help on account of him being deprived of oxygen for going on almost 30 minutes now, and crawling up, and he has to basically use the pressure of the, the swells and stuff like that to go up, and he finally manages to get up. Good dramatization, good tension. Gets up there. He's okay, so basically Woody Harrelson gets Chris up there, gives him some mouth-to-mouth and everything. Manages to, get him to breathe, but he's not really all that responsive. Dave gets up there, and there was an earlier thing about how Chris put up his picture of his fiancée, everything in here, you got to seal that off once you go to the ocean, because that's all about work. Dave, however, isn't so hardened. He puts on that brave face, but he's got a picture of his 2 daughters. Nice little tie there. Cliched, yes, but you know what? I'll give it that. It earned it right there. And Chris then, now doing all that well done, or Dave's trying to get him to, to squeeze my hand, blink your eyes, whatever, this kind of stuff. Or then it's actually kind of touching, but it's so hilarious. They're upset because they're like, oh, this kind of stuff. The cameras are back online because the stuff got rebooted. And then Chris says, Dave, are you okay? And everybody laughed at it. Everybody laughed in the theater. And it's actually everybody had a sigh of relief when he got rescued and got put up there and everything. It was like a collective sigh of relief. And everybody laughed at that. It was a good interactive audience. The theater was only maybe like a third full, but still pretty effective. A lady had a service dog, like a giant British golden retriever type mix, like off to the handicapped seat just off to my right, and the dog looked up like wondering why everybody was cheering, so that was kind of cute. But anyway, Chris is fine. They go through their decompression. They have to go through 4 days of decompression because of all this. And then Duncan doesn't want to go. He doesn't really want to retire. He feels like he has a little bit more left in him. And then Chris goes home to his wife, and or fiance rather. They're talking and everything. He tells the story. Well, a diver was caught, or a diver was at the bottom of the ocean. They had to be rescued and everything. It's like, are they okay? Well, they are now. It was you, wasn't it? Because women always know, and Chris is a terrible liar. But they hug. Everything's good. There's no explanation for why he was able to survive. Possibly body temperature, water temperature, whatever, just maybe the correct elements, or maybe, whatever deity there was says, I don't really think you need to go yet. It was not your fault. So, yeah, that's it. Everything. Oh, yes, and then, by the way, Chris, Dave, and Duncan were back in the water 3 weeks later to finish the maintenance that they weren't able to finish. B+. It's got issues as far as cliches and stuff like that, but entertaining enough. B+. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Ritlin, and I'll see you soon.